Georgetown Sports podcast, the NBA Draft Top Prospects edition. Brad did his on Monday, and I think, or maybe Sunday, and I'm doing mine today. So, Brad, do you have anything to say before we start?
I don't have anything to say before we start. Ben, let's start from the top.
All right, so my number one prospect is LaMelo Ball from the Illawarra Hawks in the NBL, Australia's top league. You might know his older brother Lonzo, who's the 2 pick by the Lakers earlier. And I think LaMelo might be about as good a prospect, maybe a little worse than Lonzo was. He's tall, he's 6'6", he has really good vision, and his shooting touch is better than his stats will show. His defense is come and go, but if he works on his intensity, he has the length and the instincts to be good on that side of the ball. And most importantly for me, he's proved himself capable of outplaying like professionals at a high level by averaging 17, 7, and 7 in the NBL. So I think he'll be a top point guard at some point in time in the NBA. All right, Brad, I know you didn't have him at number 1.
I am at 3. But
yeah. I like him more than anyone else in this class, I guess. That's what it comes down to. So, going to number 2, Anthony Edwards, probably the most talented player in this draft, and he has a really high ceiling. And on most draft sites you look at, he's the top guy. He's 6'5", but he's really athletic. He can just highlight real dunks. Can create his own shot from anywhere on the floor, can go off. He went off against Michigan State in one of the games I watched, but his Georgia squad was 4-14 in the SEC, and he shot 40% from the field and 29% from 3, with less than 3 assists a game. So that doesn't make me – it's concerning because he lack of playmaking and a lack of good shooting. So that's why I have him below LaMelo. And Brad disagrees with me, I think, but
I had Anthony Edwards at 2.
yeah, you just had James Wiseman.
The more I've looked into it, I think Anthony Edwards' ceiling is higher, but I think LaMelo should be ranked ahead of Anthony Edwards. But
yeah, I agree. I think Anthony Edwards has the highest ceiling in this draft, but he also has somewhat of a lower floor because of his inconsistency. So that's why I have him at 2. All right, moving down to James Wiseman now. That's who I have at number 3. And James Wiseman is the best center in this draft, no question. He's physical specimen, just under 7 feet tall, and he's 250 pounds, so he's just really strong. He is a block machine at Memphis, and he also racks up rebounds. And he has a good shooting touch for a big guy, which hopefully he can extend his range to the three-point line a little more in the NBA. But we'll still see about that. But the only reason I have him this low is because his season was cut short 3 games, so I didn't see enough of him to put him any higher. But I really liked what I saw in those 3 games. So that's James Wiseman at 3 for me. You had him at 1.
I did have him at 1, yeah.
And I definitely think he could be 1, but I think because of his lack of playing time, I'm going to put him at 3. All right. Let's go on to 4. So my 4th guy is Tyrese Halliburton, which I think this is the highest you could put him. There's no question that he's a really good point guard. I love his game. I think that he really tall for a point guard. He's 6'5". He has long arms, but his IQ is off the charts if you watch him play. He limits mistakes, and he averaged more than 6 assists a game on a pretty bad Iowa State team last year. So he got his teammates involved really well. If you watch the tape on him, he just makes really good passes, and he's skilled with the ball. His main flaw, in my opinion, is a strange shooting motion. It starts a little low, and it's a little slow. If he fixes that, he'll be a really good player. He still shoots above 40% from 3. So he's good, even though he has a weird shot form. But I don't know if he'll get drafted this high, but I really think he's a top prospect in this draft. And you didn't – I don't know where you had him. You had him like 14.
I think, yeah.
You had him really. I think you had him too low. I don't know if I'd put him this high if I redid this, but I do think I'd put him in the top 6. So, all right, number 5, Isaac Okoro, Auburn, small forward. He's an interesting guy. His stats aren't the most impressive for a top prospect and coming out of like a D1 college. He only averaged 13, 4, and 2 a game on kind of mediocre shooting. But he is really good on defense, long arms, and really good instincts, and he's a good fit for a team like the Bulls that we've talked about before. He'll accept his offensive role, and he's a really unselfish player. He'll work to make things work on the offensive side, and he'll be able to one day lock down a top offensive player on the other team. So in a stronger draft, he might not get drafted this high, but I think he has the pieces to be a key NBA player. And we've talked about Isaac before, so.
I have him at 4.
We
hope
both.
the Bulls will get him, but
So
yeah.
moving down to number 6. So 6 for me, I put Killian Hayes here because he's the next in line of a list of French point guards following Frank Ntilikina and Elie Okobo, and I think he could be the best of them yet. He is 6'5", he has great passing and dribbling ability, and he averaged 13 points a game and 6 assists. Not amazing stats, but he was playing in a top-tier European league, so that impressed me enough to put him above other point guards. And if you watch the tape, he makes smart plays. He is a little shifty with the ball, and his three-point shot's a little iffy, but I think he's improved enough to where he's a good prospect in this draft. And I don't know where you had Killian Hayes.
I am a little bit lower. I think I had him at maybe 8, but
Yeah,
he's a love or hate prospect.
Yeah, he could be a bust, but I also think he could really be pretty good in the NBA. So we'll see how he does. Now going to 7, Obi. One of the best stories of college basketball season. He was kind of unheard of last year, but led Dayton to a probable 1 seed. He never got the chance to show off, though, against the top NCAA competition in the tournament because of coronavirus, and that was definitely a missed opportunity for him. He could have maybe even gotten higher in the draft if he had done really well in the tourney, but he was still really good last year. Averaged 20 and 8, although against kind of weaker competition, the Atlantic 10 for most of the year. And he showed off really good athleticism at 6'9", shot almost 40% from 3, good for a big. And his age is a little high; it's 22, so he's probably peaked about in a few years. And his weaker competition makes him my 7th prospect. So it's good, but not like the best. And Brad, you like Obi? I don't know if you
I
like
think he's
him.
fine.
I think
I'm
you
not a huge fan of him. I think a lot of scouts and analysts overrate him, but he's a solid player.
Yeah. He
Top
was,
10 talent for sure.
he was fun in college. All right. Let's go to 8. Number 8, Denny Avdija. I had to put him here, even though I don't love him. He's a guy who was projected to be a top 5 pick for most of last year, but didn't impress me enough. Averaged 4 points and 2 rebounds a game on Maccabi Tel Aviv, and wasn't a great shooter, but he has good potential. He has a good-looking shot, and he's a playmaker at 6'9". He's still growing at 18. He has everything that you want in an NBA player. He just has to put it together. But he could, under NBA coaching, he could become really good. So he's more of a project at this point, but he definitely has the tools. So that's why he's at 8. Number 9, Aaron Nesmith, Vanderbilt shooting guard. I watched his tape, and he's just a lethal shooter. Knockdown shooter, nearly 7-foot wingspan, good for a shooting guard. In the 14 games he played before he got hurt, and it was only a broken foot, so not that bad an injury. He was a monster. He averaged 23 points a game and made over 4 threes a game on 52%, which is just crazy shooting. We don't know how he would have finished the year in the SEC play, but just that enough makes him a top 10 prospect for me. That crazy shooting ability. Needs to work on his defense, but I still think he's a top 5 offensive player in this draft, so I had him at number 9. And Brad, how do you feel about Aaron Nesmith?
I think he's fine. Not a huge fan. Don't hate him. Don't love him. I think he hurt his draft stock getting injured this year.
But before
I think he's an elite offensive player, top 5 offensively, but his defense pushes him down to 9 for you, and I'm pretty sure he's 13 on my board.
yeah, he's like 10 through 15. He's like a fringe lottery guy, so we'll see where he gets picked. Number 10 for me, Onyeka Okongwu. Brad likes him more than I do. He was teammates of LaMelo's at Chino Hills, and then he went to USC and became their best player. He fits with today's NBA because he's quick as a center and really athletic, plays above the rim. He averaged 3 blocks a game in college, which is really good for 6'9", but he still is only 6'9", and he can't shoot at all. He only took 4 threes in the entire year at USC, so his lack of size and shooting makes me not love him for the NBA, which is why I have him at 10. All right, going down to 11. Let's RJ Hampton. I liked him a lot when he was in high school. He won the Texas Player of the Year as a junior, and then he reclassified and was a top 2019 college recruit. But he decided to go to the NBL for the Breakers like LaMelo did. But unlike LaMelo, he didn't play very well, and he hurt his draft stock. But I still think that he can develop into a solid guard because he's 6'5" and he's still growing out. He's explosive on the fast break. He can create his own shot, and he has good vision. So if he works on his 3, he'll be a good player. And I know that he could go between this and he could maybe fall to the bottom of the first round. So we'll see where he gets picked. All right, 12. All right, Devin I don't know how to say it. Vassell. He's another top defender. He's 6'7", long wingspan. Got a lot of steals and a lot of blocks in college, but he has a weird shot form. And he doesn't have great fundamentals as I watched him. But he has potential to be a good 3-and-D player because he did shoot over 40% on his threes, even with his weird form. So I have him at 12 because of that. All right, number 13, I got Precious. He's just totally a beast. He's 6'9" and 225 with really good hops and huge hands. And when James Wiseman got suspended, he was good enough at Memphis to be their best player. He averaged 16 and 10 and 2 blocks a game. And he has all the tools, but he's really raw. He only picked up basketball as a freshman in high school, so he's a project, but he could be really good. All right, Brad, how do you feel about Precious Achiuwa?
I'm a big fan of his. I don't know why you'd have him at 13. I think he's
I
think he'll probably go around 25, 30, 20 in the draft.
If he falls, he's really differs. I mean, ESPN has him in the top 15, but other sites don't. We'll see where he goes. Kira Lewis is my 14th player, point guard out of Alabama. He's one of the top rising players in this class, and when you watch him play, you can see why. He's an ideal point guard because he's extremely fast in transition, can blow by you off the dribble, and he averaged, I think that says 18. I don't know what that says, but it's like 18 and 5 for Alabama, or 18, 5 and 5 for Alabama. He's really thin. He's only 165 pounds, and he'll have to definitely get bigger if he wants to be able to defend NBA players. But his blend of speed and passing, and he even can shoot all right, 36% threes, makes me like him more than Cole Anthony. So, and that brings me to Cole Anthony, who's my 15th guy.
Way too low, in my opinion.
Way too low? Well, yeah. Amani thinks that he's also not that good, so we agree on that. 15, Cole Anthony, North Carolina point guard. Before the year, he was a top 5 draft prospect. He can still score with anybody, and he can penetrate or create his own shot really well. He has good enough size. He's 6'3" and 190, but he only put up 4 assists a game, and he turned it over right about as much as he assisted it on the worst North Carolina team of Roy Williams' time at North Carolina. He dealt with a couple of injuries, and just his lack of success in college and his turnovers makes me question his ability to lead an NBA offense. So, and he's just not a great passer. So that's why I have him this low. I know it's pretty low, but we'll see. He should prove me wrong. Let's go down. All right, you missed. Oh yeah, there we are. So, okay, 16 is Sadiq Bey out of Villanova. small forward, power forward. I like Sadiq Bey's game. I know Brad had him at 9, which I think is too high. But he came out of nowhere to become a top college player at Nova. He's really tall. He's 6'8", and he's a good shooter at 45%. And he's gotten much better over his 2 years in college. He's a smart player, and he's a decent defender. He's smart, so he makes him an all right defender, but he's not athletic, and he doesn't jump well, and he's not super fast. He's already 21. His shot form's a little different than the ideal shot form, and I don't know how well he'll be able to utilize his abilities in the NBA, but I do like him. That's why I'm 16. All right, 17, and Brad loves Sadiq Bey, so.
Big Sadiq Bey fan.
Yeah, so we're going down to 17. Patrick Williams, Florida State small forward. So there's a few players that just have really good tools, and Patrick Williams does. He's 6'8", he's 225, and he has a 7-foot wingspan. He's quick, so he can guard a lot of positions, and he's also really good at blocking shots. He has a really good free throw shooter, 82%, so maybe he can become a better three-point shooter, although he wasn't good in college. And he needs to work on his just overall offensive game, I think. But his defensive ability is there. If he puts it all together, he could become a good NBA player. I had him at 17 for that reason. All right, 18, Josh Green, shooting guard at Arizona. Green had a bit of a roller coaster at Arizona. Stats were a little disappointing. He only averaged 12, 4, and 2 a game. But he was a top prospect heading to the year because really athletic. He's tall at 6'6" and big at 210 pounds, and he's good on defense. He just needs to shoot better. He was only 42% overall in college, and he needs to become a better passer if he wants to be a good NBA player. So I put him a little lower than he is in a lot of sites, but I don't love his game as much as some people. All right, 19, Jalen Smith, Maryland, power forward center. Brad and I agree about this guy. He's 6'10". He could be a valuable offensive player because he can space the floor. He shot 37% on threes last year, and he can score inside. He was a 60% shooter on twos. He averaged 15 and 10 as the second option on a Maryland team that was led by Anthony Cowan Jr., and his game should be translating well to the NBA as it is now. He's a good rim protector, but he's really thin. Might get bullied in the post a little bit. But if he bulks up, I like his game a lot. And Brad also had him around here.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm actually pulling up my list currently, so once we're done, we can compare him. But I'm pretty sure I had him around here.
So
now this is the guy who I didn't even have in my top 30.
Yeah,
Tyrese Maxey.
Tyrese Maxey. On most sites, he's a top 15 player, but he had a pretty underwhelming year because he was considered a top 10 pick before this year started. He's strong at 6'3" and 200 pounds, and he can create his own shot, and he was a physical defender. But his stats were not that good. He turned it over almost as much as he assisted it, and he shot only 29% on threes, which for a shooting guard at 6'3" is way too low in my opinion. He's talented, but he's short with iffy shooting. So I put him at 20 just because he's a really talented player. He needs to shoot a lot better if he wants to be a good NBA player. So that's where I have Tyrese Maxey. And then my 21st player is someone who's – this is the first guy I put down that's outside the top 50 on most sites. I don't understand why he's so underrated. He was the SEC Player of the Year last year by coaches and by the USA Today poll. And he was Kentucky's best player, better than Tyrese Maxey for most of the year. He averaged 16 a game and shot 42% for three and over 90% from the line, so he's a really good shooter. He also didn't have a lot of turnovers, and he was a strong perimeter defender, but he is a little small. He's only 6'3", and he's really skinny. He needs to become a better passer. He only averaged like 2 assists a game, but he plays with a good mentality, and he's quickly improving.
Ben, I can tell you why people have him not inside their top 50. I mean, I agree with you. One SEC Player of the Year. He's he was a sophomore last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he still has some time. But I just don't know how much he'll improve. I think he's kind of reached the ceiling, and that's why people have him high. But on my board, he would have won in my top 35. Just missed out. Him and Miles Powell. I think I had Miles Powell at 31, him at 32.
And this is also, I think he's a little lower than 21, but I wanted to put him in, and I just put him in next to his Kentucky teammate at 21. In reality, he's probably my he's top 30, but he's probably more like 28, 29. Just so everyone knows that. All right, 22. All right, I didn't know who this was until Brad brought him up. He has a lot of potential. He's 7 feet tall. He's really skinny, and he needs to get much bigger if he wants to be an impact player in the NBA. If he does, he could be good. He's a really good shot blocker. He averaged 4 blocks a game last year in Greece, and he has a smooth shooting stroke, although he only hit 29% on threes. He kind of reminds me of Chet Holmgren, who is a top player in the class of 2022, I think, because he's super tall, he's a really good shot blocker, he's skinny, and he can shoot. So those two guys are similar players. I do think this guy, Pokusevski, has a lot of potential, but I don't know if he'll ever do anything in the NBA.
All right, Zeke Nanja.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of him as well.
Arizona power forward center. He came in this year as overlooked on Arizona because they had Josh Green and Nico Mannion, but became their best player and was on a roll heading into March Madness. Unfortunately, didn't get to show off there. He had 16 points a game and 9 rebounds, and he's a really hard worker. Coaches love him for his work ethic, and he'll continue to improve in the NBA. He's physical because he's 7 feet tall and 240 pounds, and he's pretty quick, but he doesn't have great length. Like his wingspan's not that good, but I think he makes up for it with his work ethic and will carve out a role in the NBA. So I am at 23 because of his just overall attitude, I guess. All right, 24. Theo Maledon, France point guard. Another French guy. He's tall at 6'5", like Killian Hayes, and has a smoother looking shot than a lot of this year's top point guards. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He only had about a turnover and a half a game in France, and is improving his field goal percentage, which is still below average at around 45%. He plays, his drawback is that he plays on a second-tier team in France against a weaker level of competition than a lot of these top international players, and didn't stand out at all because he averaged 6, 2, and 2. If he has that type of stats in a second-tier French league, it makes me question what he'll do in the NBA. But he has really good tools, so I did put him in my top 30. He'll definitely need time to develop. So we'll go down to 25. Isaiah Stewart, center, Washington. He was a top recruit, but he slid down draft boards, although he put up good stats. He averaged 17 and 9 on 57% shooting, which is pretty good. And he showed good touch when he shot 77% on free throws, which always is a thing for bigs. Are they good free throw shooters? He's intense, and he's a 250-pound machine, but he's small at 6'9", and he's slow outside the paint, which could cause him to struggle a lot on the defensive side in the NBA. Teams could just take advantage of him, so that's why I have him at 25. All right, 26, Terrell Terry, PG Stanford. I didn't know this was until recently, but I watched his tape. He has a lot of skills important in the NBA. He can change pace quickly. He makes good-looking passes, and he makes them look easy. He has a quick shooting release, deep range, and can catch fire, similarly to Trae Young. He shot over 40% from 3 last year and 50% or 90% from the line. But he's really small at 6'1" and 160. Tiny for the NBA. He'll need to gain weight to defend bigger guards, and he's already really short. So his offensive upside is really high, but his size limits how high he can be drafted. That's why I'm at 26. But he could be like one of those guys come off the bench and put in a lot of points, make some good passes. So I like his game.
This is a guy who I've never really heard of. I've seen him in a couple prospect and big boards and mock drafts, but
so I think this is the top end of his range, but I couldn't ignore his stats. He's good size for shooting guard. He's 6'6" and 215 pounds, and he's a lethal shooter. He shot over 40% in 3 of his 4 years at TCU, and with more volume, he shot 44% last year. He averaged 17 points a game, but he has a really small wingspan, which it's negative. So his wingspan is smaller than his height. His shot mechanics are a little unorthodox, but he also plays with good physicality and craftiness. And he's a little slow and unathletic like Sadiq Bey, which is why I have him at 27, even though he has really good stats. All right. Let's go to 28. Cassius Winston, point guard, Michigan State. So his game reminds me a bit of Jalen Brunson's. He was a great leader and facilitator on some really strong Michigan State teams, and he's a really good shooter at 43%. Has a dangerous mid-range game and can dominate on the pick and roll. But he's short and he's slow at 6'1". But he has a really high IQ, so he should stay in the NBA for a while. All right. Rounding out the top 30, we got Nico Mannion, Arizona point guard. Heading into this year, he was one of the top 15 prospects, I would say. But he just didn't have a good season for Arizona. He only averaged 14 and 5 and shot under 40% from the field and 33% from three, which isn't good enough for an undersized guard. He's 6'3" and 190, which isn't bad size, and still has great slashing ability and shot creativity, but he needs to become more efficient for the NBA. And then my 30th player is Udoka Azubuike, Kansas center. He was just a beast inside for a top Kansas team. He shot 77% from the field and just bullied opposing players with his 7-foot, 275-pound frame. He might not be able to do the same damage in the NBA, but his rebounding skills and physicality make me like him. All right, that's my top 30, Brad.
All right. Before we go here, I want to compare Ben's list to my list. We'll start top to bottom. Why not?
We have a similar top.
LaMelo, Anthony, James. Mine are completely different. I have James, Anthony, LaMelo. You both have Anthony 2, but LaMelo and James are flip-flopped. Looking back, I probably could have moved Anthony Edwards to 3, put LaMelo up, but
You have James at 1 for sure.
yes.
All right.
I love James. All right. Isaac Okoro at 4. You had Tyrese Halliburton at 4. Okoro at 5. Hayes at 6. I had Toppin at 5, who you had at 7, and I had Veja at 6, who you had at 8. So not crazy different.
Yeah, that's pretty similar.
Halliburton, though, is an odd one. Oneke Okongwu, Killian Hayes. You had Killian at 6 and Oneke at 10. Obi's at 7. Denny. So they're all similar, except honestly the only very different one so far is Tyrese Halliburton.
That is
That
true.
goes right there. Aaron Nesmith had him at 13, so not a crazy change. RJ Hampton, I had him up there as well.
I think we had him at the same place.
11. Yes, we did. I had Sadiq and Cole. You had Cole a little bit lower. Devin
Yeah.
Vassell, I had him lower. You had him higher. Precious, a lot higher. I had him
Yeah.
at 27, 14 up. Kier Lewis, I think I had him at 21.
You had Vernon Carey.
I
I,
didn't carry at
I
12.
didn't put Vernon Carey in mine.
You didn't put in your top 30. I think he definitely deserves to be there. There's Halliburton, 14, and then Daniel Oturu. You didn't even have him on there.
I don't know. I like Jalen Smith more from the Big Ten.
I think he definitely cracks the top 30, but
Well, I don't think he will in the draft. I don't know. He's good. He's definitely a top 40 guy for me.
all right. Joshua Green, I had him at 16.
I had him at 18.
And
That's-
there's Cole Anthony, yep. Sadiq, 16, I had him at 9.
I think where I put him is more
Patrick
realistic.
Williams, I didn't even have in mine. Josh Green's right there. Theo Maladon, I know you had him lower. There's Devin Vassell. Jalen Smith, I think we had him in the same spot. Yep. Maxey and Quickly, I didn't have either of those guys. I had Stewart, and then there's Lewis. I don't think you had Isaiah Stewart in yours.
I did.
You definitely didn't have these two, Reggie Perry and Mason Jones.
I did not have either of those two.
They probably should have been 27 through 30. You had Kukozvike, who I had at 24. Zeke Nonder, who I had Theo Maladon, who I also have. Julian Ndoye, you definitely don't have him.
Did not have Ndoye. I saw him. I didn't.
Oh, there's Stewart. And then Tyler Terry, we have in the same spot. So 3 players so far. Terry, Jalen Smith.
And Anthony Edwards
Yeah.
and RJ Hampton. We got
And RJ Hampton. Desmond Bain didn't have. Cassius Winston didn't have. I had Precious there and Trey Jones. I think Trey Jones definitely is top 30.
I just don't think he's has a high ceiling at all. So
Me neither, but I think he can still contribute. There's Zeke Nanja and Jordan Awara. I'm surprised you didn't have him. Nico Mannion and then Udoka Azubuike.
I just love Jessup Buike. He's just so strong. So I put him in just to be.
I think everyone in your list would be a top 60 player for me. We could honestly do a top 60, Ben.
We could do our 30 through 60 if you. I mean,
Yeah, maybe we can do that.
our lists were pretty similar.
We should probably talk next episode. We'll most likely talk about the NBA reopening news.
Yeah,
a bunch of other stuff because the last 2 episodes have been draft oriented. But until then, we'll see you guys later.
See you guys. Thanks for having me
Thank
on.
you for joining us. It's been good. It's been good. All right, peace.